Hey guys, Tyler here with PPC Foundry. I wanted to share just kind of a quick overview of how we go through account audits, and when we're looking at an account, what are some of the top level metrics that we like to look at, and really the reason behind why we look at them. Because you can pop into any Google Ads account, and there's so many different things to look at and ways to what I call infer the information. There's really so many ways that you can explain something, and so this is kind of the process that I go through to really understand where an ad account is, kind of how it's performing. So I'm going to share that with you. Hopefully, find this video helpful. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and like and subscribe so that we can keep bringing you more content like this. All right, guys. So we're going to jump in. What we have here is a plumbing account, and we're doing just a quick audit on it, see kind of how it's been going. And if you're familiar with Google Ads, you can see over the last 90 days, not a lot has been going on with it. So when we're going to look at this, typically I do like to look at 90 days plus, just to get a better holistic view of what the heck's been going on. Now, some of the segments that I'm going to do as well on the table of the campaign is I like to see what conversion metrics they're even tracking. A lot of the time, people aren't really tracking conversions correctly. So we can see over the last 90 days, they've accounted for one phone call as a conversion, and that it's also logged one phone call. So not too good. But again, conversion tracking may not be properly set up, all that different type of stuff. So that'll be something we kind of dive into. But from here, we can just see again, not too much is going on. So some of the other things I'll go to right away after kind of seeing what conversions look like is click-through rate. So, just at first glance, this is a very low click through rate for an industry where it should be a little bit higher. One, because typically costs in plumbing and HVAC are going to be pretty expensive, which you can see right here. Average CPC is going to be about $16. So, we should be very, very targeted and precise in what we're doing. So, just right off the top, I can tell that keywords are probably a mess. We probably have a bunch of different either broad match or different things like that going in the account. So we don't really want that. And we can see right here, we have 5,300 impressions over the last 90 days and 84 clicks. And that could also be indicative too of the ad copy. Maybe they just have really bad ad copy. For the most part, though, like if you're targeting really precise keywords, you're still going to have a decent click through rate. But just like literally right off top of the bat, the things I'm thinking, seeing that they've only been running $22 a day, click through rate's really low, cost per click's high. They're pretty much just not being competitive in their market, and they're probably targeting a lot of just either really loose phrase match or have a few broad match keywords in there, just different stuff like that. That's just not helping what they need to do. They really need to focus on really high intent keywords that are more than likely going to need to be exact match, or phrase match that are a little bit more long tail but have a high buying intent, and a lot of negative keywords. So, and we can still see this, obviously, conversion rate's super low over the last 90 days because it's one conversion. And this is what they've spent, obviously. So, not a huge budget as well. So, looking over here is two. The other things that we're going to look at is our search impression share. So, what search impression share really means is that's your market penetration. Um, and that's basically saying the keywords we're targeting in the location that we're targeting them, this is how much that we're showing up percentage wise. So, if we're running ads Monday through Friday, when we're running ads for the keywords that we're running them in the location we're running, we're only showing up 20% of the time for available searches that are actually happening. So this metric isn't super important at the moment to diagnose the account problems because, again, we're more than likely targeting a lot of bad keywords, showing up for things we don't really need to. So this is going to rapidly change as we fix this type of stuff. But as you want to scale an account, if things are going really well, this is a metric that you want to look at to see how much more market penetration is available, so you can start to scale things. So next we're gonna look at kind of all these different, search absolute top, impression share. That's what the IS stands for if you're unfamiliar. But we're going to kind of look at all these different things. But what we're going to see, I'll give you the end of the story, is again, like I said, the competitiveness isn't there because of the budget that they're spending, and they're not able to bid high enough. So if we know that we're showing up 20% of the time, out of that 20%, absolute top, it basically means first place. So we're showing up less than 10% of the time, which Google doesn't give you any metrics below 10%. So it could be 1%, could be 9%. We're not sure. More than likely, it's probably less than 1% that we're actually showing up at the top. Now, us showing in the top four spots, so at the top of page, which is search top impression share, we're only showing up 11, almost, well, 11.5% of the time out of the 20% that we're showing up. So, again, not being super competitive. We're showing up basically at the bottom of page most of the time, which also could relate back to why we have so many impressions and not a lot of clicks, a really low click through rate, because people just aren't scrolling down to the bottom of the page to make a decision. Um, and again, we can see these are just kind of some other supporting, um, of where we lost position. So we can see that we lost our first place due to our ranking, due to budget, and different stuff like that. So it just really tells the whole story that, in essence, this account has not been competitive. In the ad auction, and that's the reason why it has not been performing. So, the next step from here is diagnosing keywords. And really, this advertiser would need to be spending more money, understanding that, hey, you have a high cost per click for this industry. You're going to need to spend more so that you can be competitive in this space. And that's why it's really important to have a good keyword strategy built around this, because if you're just targeting all these really, medium intent or very low intent keywords, which you may not even know if you're an advertiser that, just put in, oh, I want to do HVAC or just plumbing repair or plumbing, as general keywords, you could be showing up for a ton of crazy stuff. So, yeah, that's really how we would want to look at this. And just looking at these overview stats, that's what I can tell right away. And so, as you do accounts and you're looking at it, or you're looking at your own account, those are kind of the most important things that you really want to look at, because that's going to give you the story without diving into all the minutia of how your ad account is performing. And what happens here too, as advertisers, maybe understand some of this, or they're like, oh, we're not showing up enough, or wow, this cost per click, is really high. That's kind of what a lot of people gravitate to, is the cost per click, because again, it's like, man, why are we paying so much money to get one single click? We're not getting anything, we're spending a lot, to them. Um, and the reality is they're going to try to control their cost per click, because they just think, oh, if we can get lower cost per click, we're going to get more clicks and more opportunity for business. But if you look at these other stats here, you realize they're not being competitive even at that cost per click, right? So they're not showing up high enough. They don't have enough daily spend. They're not penetrating their market enough. So reducing the average cost per click to even less than this, they're not going to show up at all. And they're going to get even worse metrics because of it. Now, there's people that are going to argue, yes, max conversions, inflates the cost at times. And it does for sure. But the reality is that you still have to be competitive in the market overall. And how we would probably move forward with this is we would start a maximize clicks bidding strategy, testing out kind of what that limit is. But it's still going to probably fall in that range, probably of like $15 to $30 cost per click, because of this service industry. And it could be very competitive in the market that this client is in. So that's just the reality of it. Like, that's how Google Ads is. And sometimes you're going to have to pay a lot of money to play in this game. It's not like it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or even 3 years ago. Like, you have to have a good amount of budget that you're willing to spend to stay competitive, because it's not just about showing up for what people are searching. You're literally going into an ad auction against others to get the highest spot. And so, if you're not willing to be competitive in that sense, then Google Ads at this time probably isn't right for you. There's some other things like local search ads, even Facebook, and different avenues that may be a better place to start so that you can build your business up. if you're in a space that has a really high CPC. So I hope you guys found this walkthrough helpful. Again, this is kind of how you would look at your account from a top level view to really understand those different metrics, and really what's going on in the account without even diving into all the weird details or things you may not even know about. If you can look at some of those metrics, you can really get a better understanding of your standing in the marketplace, of where you're advertising, and start to get some inferences of where you should start. So, just as like a final wrap up here, definitely we would look at the keywords, which I don't want to share because there's some brand information in there. So I don't want to give away this advertiser, but there's different things that they're running like broad keywords. So you could get some inferences from this top level of where you should start in diagnosing the problem to start fixing things so that, again, this account could be competitive. But at the end of the day, with this one, they're going to have to spend a lot more money, um, and be a little bit more competitive at the end of the day, because we could do all the different things that we want to do in Google Ads and set it up perfectly. But if they're not going to have a good enough budget, it's just not going to do anything and they shouldn't be advertising. Thanks, guys.